There's a wild idea out there that the world is really just made up of two kinds of people, engineers and everybody else. Well, it looks like China is taking that idea and running with it. They are building, metaphorically speaking, an army of engineers. We're talking about a mobilization of human talent on a scale we have literally never seen before, and it could reshape everything. So let's get into it. Okay, to really get what China's up to, you have to start with the sheer scale of it all. This isn't just some small adjustment in education policy. No, this is a massive, nationwide strategy designed to shift the global balance of power. Get this. Every single year, China graduates over 1.5 million new engineers. Just let that number sink in for a second. 1.5 million. And to put that into perspective, that 1.5 million isn't just a big number. It's more than the United States, all of Europe, and Japan graduate combined. It's not even a competition at this point. It is a fundamental difference in how human capital is being produced. And it's not just at the undergrad level. The trend actually gets more intense the higher you go. By 2025, it's projected that China will be cranking out over 77,000 STEM PhDs a year. That is more than double the number expected from the United States. So all of this leads to the big question, right? Is this massive output just a side effect of having a huge population? Or is this something else? Is it a deliberate, calculated plan? Well, the answer is pretty clear. This is absolutely a plan. It's a highly strategic, meticulously designed blueprint that was announced years ago, and it has a very, very specific goal. Let's take a look at how it all works. So way back in 2015, China put out this roadmap called Made in China 2025. The whole point was to completely transform the country's identity, to go from being the world's factory, assembling things for everyone else, to becoming the world's innovator. And they set hard targets. By 2020, they wanted 40% of their core tech components made at home. By 2025, that number was supposed to jump to 70%. And the plan zooms in on 10 absolutely critical sectors. We're talking about the technologies that are going to define this century. I mean, if you want to lead in things like robotics, AI, and biotech, you can't just throw money at the problem. You need a massive, deep pool of highly skilled engineers to actually build it all. So, okay, that's the what. But what about the how? How is China actually pulling this off? Well, their strategy really comes down to two main pillars: completely overhauling their education system from the inside and aggressively recruiting their top talent back from the outside. First, they are just fundamentally re-engineering their entire education system. It's pretty wild. In 2024 alone, 19 universities announced they were cutting majors like animation and replacing them with programs focused on artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and integrated circuits. This isn't a suggestion. It is a top-down, nationwide overhaul. At the exact same time, they've managed to engineer a massive brain gain. You see, for decades, China had a brain drain. Their best and brightest would go study abroad and just never come back. Well, that's completely flipped. Today, about 80% of Chinese students who study overseas return home. That is a staggering reversal from just 5% back in the late 80s, and it's all thanks to some really powerful incentive programs. Now, the engine that powers this entire selection process is the infamous Gaokao exam. Every year, 12 million students go through this unbelievably grueling, high-stakes test. Now, a lot of critics in the West say it stifles creativity, but for China, it serves a very clear purpose. It acts as a powerful national filter to find and channel the absolute top academic talent directly into engineering and science. Okay, now this is where the whole story takes a really critical turn, because this army of engineers isn't just being built to design the next cool smartphone or electric car. No, there's a deeply integrated military dimension to all of this that's making a lot of people in the West pretty nervous. The core idea here is something called civil-military fusion, and the goal is simple: erase the lines between civilian research and military applications. So what does that mean in practice? Well, it means a breakthrough in drone technology at a private tech company, for example, can be almost instantly adapted for military surveillance or even combat. And they are building the institutions to make this happen. Just this year, in 2024, China announced 3 new super specialized military academies. And look, these aren't your traditional military schools. They are designed from the ground up to train engineers specifically for next-generation warfare. everything from cyber and communications to advanced logistics and weaponry. But here's the thing. For all its mind-boggling scale and ambition, this giant machine is not perfect. In fact, China is facing some pretty significant challenges at home that make the picture a whole lot more complex. So even with this fire hose of new talent, there are still critical shortages in key areas. Take artificial intelligence. Projections show that by 2030, China is going to be facing a shortfall of 4 million AI specialists. 4 million! And you see the exact same story in the semiconductor industry, which is obviously crucial. Despite this huge national push, the country is still expected to be short about 300,000 chip specialists by 2025. And this is where it gets really paradoxical. While these key industries are desperate for top-tier talent, the country is also dealing with a major youth unemployment crisis. In mid-2023, the unemployment rate for young people shot past 21%. So what does that tell you? It points to a serious mismatch. The country is producing a huge quantity of engineers, but maybe not always with the highly specialized skills that these bleeding-edge industries actually demand. Of course, this massive effort isn't happening in a bubble. It's kicking off what really looks like a global technological arms race, and it's forcing the rest of the world, especially the West, to figure out how to respond. So in response, you've got both the United States and the European Union launching these huge investment plans, like the CHIPS Acts. They're pouring tens of billions of dollars into their own tech industries. But they both are running into the exact same fundamental problem, a critical shortage of engineers to actually do the work. And this creates what some experts are calling an existential dilemma for the West. Western tech companies, especially in AI, have become incredibly reliant on top-tier talent from China, so they're stuck. They're trying to compete with China, while at the very same time they depend on China's brain power to innovate. It's a really tricky position. Maybe the single best way to think about all of this is with this one thought. China's real innovation here wasn't a piece of technology. It was applying the industrial logic of the assembly line to the cultivation of human talent, and doing it on a scale that the world has just never, ever seen before. So what does this all mean? It means we're watching, in real time, the deliberate engineering of a new global order. And that leaves all of us with a really big question. As this army of talent truly comes online, who exactly will be the chief architects of our future?